So in a couple of the Scapula comic commentaries, I had mentioned that anime is something that I am not really all that familiar with, but you know what? It's about time for me to just give it a shot. So, for the sake of this video, I decided to try something new and pick out an anime that I think I'd like and I think would be relevant to a monster drawing channel. And to that end, I spent most of last month watching the entire series of Neon Genesis Evangelion. So Evangelion, or Evangelion, however you choose to pronounce it, is sort of an update on the mecha genre, which would have included stuff like Gundam, Mazinger, stuff like that. Evangelion was a really big deal at the time, and it continues to be very influential on other anime and sci-fi in Japan, and even outside of Japan too, Pacific Rim. And to that end, I figured, what the heck, it seems like something that a monster kid like me would be into. So I watched the entire series on Netflix, and also the movie The End of Evangelion. For me to really summarize this series would take a much longer video. It would probably take like a couple of hours to really delve into the psychology, the theology, the symbolism, the character studies, and all of that goes on in this series. And I'm sure plenty of other reviewers on YouTube have done that already. So just to keep life simple, let's just keep it to the monsters, or the monster I'm drawing today. And a lot of you guys who have watched the series, feel free to comment below and let me know anything I've missed outside of the monsters. So, the monsters in the series, outside of the Evas, which you could consider those monsters too, take the form of these creatures called angels. Now, angels are not really kaiju in the classic Tsuburaya sense. They take on all sorts of different shapes and forms outside of monsters. Some of them are just abstract shapes, some of them are nanites, and some of them are pretty high school boys who make the protagonist doubt their sexuality. The one I'm drawing today is the first angel, or the first monster that shows up in the series that goes by the name of Sachiel. Quick note I need to make about this is, Sachiel is the first 2D animation character that I'm drawing in this monster video series, although for reference I was mostly using the Prime 1 statue. Sachiel, I can't really say has a conventional design for monsters, but as far as the angels in this series goes, he's pretty much the most straightforward monster related. He's not really a major player in the series, so to speak, but yet he remains one of the most recognizable characters or creatures from the series. There's been a lot of merchandise made from him, and outside of possibly Lilith, he's probably the most recognizable and memorable of the monsters. Sachiel's design doesn't really harken back too much to classic kaiju like I had mentioned, although some reviewers have pointed out some similarities. One reviewer had said that Sachiel's body design is a little similar to Jamila, while I would say sort of the skull cases, the skull coverings, whatever you want to call them, are a little bit like Gabora. Sachiel would go on to influence other kaiju, such as the skull crawlers from the legendary Kong and Godzilla series. With all that said, it's still a very fun design, and Sachiel remains pretty memorable. Do I recommend Evangelion to other monster kids or other folks who are not familiar with anime? Sure! Like I said, there's a lot going on in this series outside of the monsters and the action, which are still going to be very enjoyable. Plus, of course, Evangelion has sort of connections to other kaiju that came afterwards, but you guys can figure that out for yourself. In any case, thank you very much for watching. If you are an Evangelion fan, please feel free to let me know your thoughts below if I missed anything, and if there are other anime that you would recommend to a monster kid who's looking to get their feet wet with more animation from Japan, please feel free to let me know. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.